This is Jack's Drive, a show where we dive into all things design. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Dan.
Cool. Okay. So, we're going to do a 6 month check in on design predictions for 2023 since it's. What month is it?
5th.
June.
This is May.
It's going to be posted in June.
Okay.
So, 6 months, and then how they've held up, what we've seen so far, where we think things are going, and yeah. Alright, so we're going to be going through a Medium article by Diana Malowicz for design predictions made back in December of 2022. So I was assuming that you haven't looked through this yet, but you started to go through it for some reason.
No, I haven't looked through it.
Okay, so I want your guesses. What are your guesses that were the predictions for this year?
My predictions were at the start of the year, there's a lot of moving images.
Stop. That's the first one in this article. You were looking at it.
No, I wasn't. Trust me. It was been the trend since social media have picked up on video creation across. So I think that trend, I knew that trend will move towards design across, web, not just in mobile space. So we always get excited when we see videos. So the moving images has always been a thing in the last couple of years. I think it's just continuation. So I thought that would be a big one.
Okay, can we have a guess that wasn't on the article?
I didn't look into the article. So, okay. Another guess would be like, what's the next trend for the best user experience? I think UX design, when it comes to UI part of it, most of the designers wants to make things like, what's the best user experience? Is it like clean design, or is it like how much information you basically put it on a screen, and is it necessary? And if you put too much, or if you put even right amount, is that the best user experience? So that was always been a debate between businesses, organization, like small to medium businesses, then they are like entrepreneurs, owners, large organization, product design. That that I kind of knew that would be another part to it, like how that's going to evolve. I've been a big fan of clean design.
So stop. This is why I didn't want you to go through it, because you're just saying things that were on it.
It's not just, I think these are common themes. These are really common themes. I don't think.
Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that you cheated and you went through it.
I did not go through it. So, okay, I'll give you another one then. I mean, if you think that's there. Because see, like you can't just say that I've seen it, that's what I'm talking about. Because most of the designers go through these challenges pretty much every day, like how to make things better. So, I mean, there's a trend in the industry. So designers always look through similar things. I mean, I was talking to one of my friends. He's also a design director in Australia, Adelaide, and I had a catch up with him. And he said that he was trying to come up with this logo and with the loop that we have with our Lunum brand. And he said he was playing around with colors, and then he came up with something, and then he was started checking loop logos and stuff, and Lunum came up, and he was like, it was a shock to him. It looks like blues and orange and different shades of blue and orange and clean. It's more, I would say, simplified version of one of those busy logos of the loop. And he just said, like, it's so bizarre that, what I designed and what I had in mind and what you guys have is very similar. I think these designers have the tendency to process in a certain way. Like, I think that's what it is. It's not that what she have written there and what I'm saying is exactly the same. I think there's a tendency of those things. That's what I think. But for the point that I was trying to make, I'll give you another trend that I thought. I actually thought that AI will drive the design industry in a different direction. That's something that I thought, which is there is a portion, or there is a part of design industry is moving towards AI. I was going through Webflow. Apparently, it's called that design or build the website without coding. So it's like a Figma, a tool. Like it's like Figma on steroids kind of thing. So I can see. I mean, that was on the cards for a while. That how much UI development and product design, UI design, how that's going to play with the AI space. I think it's slowly creeping in or crawling into the industry, but how much qualitative design that goes into it is a question. So that's a prediction. I think it has started. There's a lot of AI driven design tools out there. That's another prediction. I don't know whether that's in there or not.
Okay, you do, because you looked at it.
Was it there? Is it there?
You would be like a terrible person to play board games with.
I'm sorry. Okay, let's move on with it. So those are the predictions that I had.
Okay, so we're gonna go through the trends and then talk about if we've seen them, where we're seeing them, if we're using them, or if they're like totally off base and we haven't seen them at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll go to number one, motion design, the one that you looked at.
Okay, motion design. But then again, we need to find out what motion design she's talking about and what I was talking about.
Okay,
because okay. Motion design is so broad.
It's okay. It's okay. Just admit that you cheated, and that's fine.
I'm not gonna admit because I didn't cheat.
Okay. Yeah, literally, like the first line, not the first line, like the intro to this is that because of TikTok and Instagram, which is literally what you said. How do you expect me to believe that you didn't look at this?
You and I, we always talked about TikTok and how it's taking on the social media trends. So it's always been our conversation. So you can't say that I just saw it because it's there. Everyone's talking about it.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
So yeah, motion design is huge. It's everywhere. It's on like every single landing page now. Everyone is incorporating, like what you're saying, videos within social media. Like those short clips are just like everywhere. And like if a video is longer than like a few seconds, it's not going to be looked at. So it's just like very short, very like quick movements, like that's it. So that was very on point.
I think it's not just around the social media trend coming into the web. I think it's more around people want information faster than they used to absorb. Like they want to absorb information faster now than how they used to absorb it. So if you have static kind of let's take a website for example. If you have a static website that has no moving images, or even either that, or you haven't even tried to make it feels like there is a movement in it, because you can actually put certain elements into a static design that looks like there's a movement. So I mean that's a smart. There's those things called smart design, right? So the way I see it is that, like, because people want to absorb information faster, videos is the best way to do it. It's like picture says 1,000 words, so video says 1,000,000 words because moving pictures of it, right? So if you take it that way, it's like an analogy in that way. So, like, I mean, I think there can be a debate on, okay, how long the video should be on a website, how long the video should be on a social media post, and how long a video should be on YouTube, and so on and so forth. So there is always a structure to it. That will be something to discuss. I think that's something people will, or in designers or in the industry, they will talk about it, and what is the length of a video that needs to be.
People are so different. Like I will at least, like if I'm looking through like little videos or whatever, because I don't have TikTok, but I do find myself sometimes going through the Instagram one just because it's like I don't know, it's there. But like I'll at least get an idea of what the video is about before swiping on it. But like I know people where I'm like watching videos with them and they'll swipe before they even know what it's about. And I'm like, wait, what was your decision on like swiping on that? Because we didn't even get a grasp of like what they were talking about. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not because they did or didn't know what it was. It's the habit of swapping.
That's true.
So see, these are the things that people, I mean, that this I don't want to take this conversation in a different direction. So that goes to psychology and your. I was talking to you one day about neural networks, how it's all connected, and then how we the habitual or habits that we um, that that we go on doing. So after you do that for a long time, you do things without knowing it. So if you practice a good habit for a while, then you start doing it without you knowing it. So that's how the good habits can be kind of improved within your life. So this is not a good habit because we always swap up, down, left, right, and we just do it without even knowing what we were doing. I might be talking to you and like doing that because we always do that. So those are like these the bad habits that people are kind of getting into, that they do things without they knowing it because of social media and the device you have it in hand. So it's like a more of a cognitive behavior thing. Yeah.
Okay. How do you not charge your devices at night? I think that's very bizarre.
I was I was going to charge it yesterday, but anyway, it's fine. Do we need to charge it now?
No.
It should be okay.
Okay, so like scrolling to the next topic, they talk about parallax, which I think is one of those simple things that you could just like put into a website and it looks like there's so much more like motion design going on, but it's like very simple.
Yeah, I mean that's very parallax. I think that they are. It's the way I see it is like, what is it? Like I will ask the question of what are you trying to say? But exactly like you said, is a little animation, but there is a confusion part to it. Try to figure, like you're getting people to figure something out because it's not telling the exact story. It just makes you think about it. Right? That's how I see parallax. These like look at that. I mean, I'm sorry that you can't show it to the guys looking at it, right? And see, what it says is that parallax itself, the simple, right, foundation of moving the closest elements faster than the ones in the back, right, is exactly how it happens in the real life. When you are driving and looking out in the car window at a far out mountain range. So, but it is not like that. This is not like you're driving and then so many things are moving really fast on the side and you're focusing on one thing and it's actually moving slow. But this is not something like that. When you really look at that animation, it's an animation, right? Isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's like the best example of it.
Then what would be the best example you think?
Like, I think I tend to see parallax a lot on very simple websites, and especially Shopify, because it's just something you can plop on there really quick. So it's when you're scrolling and then like you're physically scrolling fast, but the elements go up just a little bit slower.
If that's what she's trying to say,
Yeah.
and that example is really bad.
Okay, well.
But that's okay. Then it's good that you kind of explain. Like that's the thing. So this is the open conversation about what is the differences and the opinions about it. So if you're talking about parallax, as even with jx.design website, right? We were trying to make little moves while the page is scrolling, and if that's the case, that is definitely like being the trend for not just this year. I think it started last year or even a bit before, but it's continuation of that. And like you said, like Shopify is the best example of it. I think the way it came to life, maybe I'm wrong. Bootstrap. So Bootstrap technology kind of picked up that moving on top of a movement. So that was very basic and where it started. When you break the large pieces of sections in a website or in a web page, now it's making into smaller. Now it's like a multiple movements. That is, I think, if parallax, the way you define it, I think that's definitely been a huge trend, and I think it will continue to trend for the rest of the year, maybe even kind of next year, because of moving images or videos and the parallax is in like multiple moving images. I think we've been researching on some of the design websites or design agency websites. it's like you're watching a TV advertisements because everything is going everywhere. It's like you're, I don't know, like it's one of those fashion and cosmetic brand advertisements on TV, how it used to be, or it's been like that. So it's quite interesting where that is going to be. How busy you want to make your um, design from a web perspective, and is it really going to work, or are we going into what is that future? It's going to be quite tricky to say.
Yeah, I think that yes, parallax has been the trend for a while now, but now it's so accessible. Anyone can add it to their website, so everyone is, because it adds that extra like movement that makes it look a little bit more like, I don't know, interactive and like more high quality. And it's kind of like, I want to compare it to like the fashion industry where like the stuff you see on the runway and the stuff you see that like these influencers are wearing don't make it into the actual trend cycle for a few months, because like everyday people aren't going to buy that super expensive piece until like these smaller brands make like the cheaper knockoff ish version of it, like a dupe. And then that's when you start seeing the trend blow up because everyone can access it because it's like more accessible.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you. Okay. So the next trend that was predicted for this year is clean design. And I'm not going to bring up about how you read through this earlier, but
I did not.
okay.
No, that's okay.
So
So clean design. Clean design is not a new thing. Clean design has been there forever.
but it's trending because
It's always been. It's trending. I would say it's trending for different parts of the industry rather than the holistic view of the industry. See, creativity always, like any creative, any designer from forever, I would say, they've always wanted to have good negative space, right? Decent negative space, the balance of focus towards exactly what you want to tell to your audience, and not to make too much clutter or not to make things busier because they don't know where to look. And then the color palette, black and white, two tones basically. And then how you use the multicolors. Are we going to have single color, different variations? So that all plays on clean design. That's always been the case. I mean, Adobe started this the platform or application online called Cooler that you can go and pick your colors, set your name color themes, and so on. So that's a fantastic tool. Um, See, there are so many tools out there to create design systems, and then design system basically helps to do a clean design. So clean design is trending. It's always been there. I agree that it's been probably trending because it's coming to the mobile space now. So it's a push towards print design, it's pushed towards web design, then it pushed towards application design like software as a service or product design. Now it's pushing towards the mobile, especially in the social media space. Plain design is kind of, I mean, we have to admit that every time something goes on social media, it's become the trend for design as well. Because audience, like social media platforms have captured the audience. Now the audience is driving the design now. So wherever the audience have the accessibility or access to it, then designers have to focus on how to make that better for the audience, because businesses, organization wants to drive their message towards through those channels. Hope that makes sense. Like, if you have the audience who are always on social media, and that's the most accessed and used platform, then the designers has to think of like, okay, organization and businesses will use those platforms to reach out to the audience. So those are the channels that they've been used most. Then designers will always think, okay, how can we make social media platform more cleaner when it comes to design? And when you do that, it becomes a trend. Hope that connects the dots for you. Yes,
yeah,
no?
yeah,
I don't think so.
no, yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say. So it's always the audience always right. It's like the user experience, like customer experience. Audience always drive the trends. Whatever they've been using, then the organizer, okay, that's what they're using the most. Let's try and make it better. So it's trends always take lead, and people and audiences create that. So clean design has been in the social media and the mobile space a lot. I think that's why it's trending. But clean design overall, holistically in the design industry, it's been there forever.
Yeah.
That's my take, and I think it's a good thing. I'm not talking against anything. It's just I think it's a fantastic trend. Hopefully that our mobile applications, like even this any app that we do, is we were talking about it's going to be better with clean design. Remember we were talking about how we were posting on social media about what the trend of iOS, like how they're actually changing where the primary buttons and primary interactions we do. So they brought it down so where your thumb is closer to the bottom of the phone. Remember we were talking about. So this is I think that's happening in the mobile space, so which is really good.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, what are you doing next?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Multicolor soft gradients. I think this has been huge. It definitely blew up. Everyone's using it everywhere. But I know that you're anti-gradient, so what do you think?
I'm not anti-gradient.
Oh yes, you are. Every time I've ever used a gradient, you've like critiqued me. Like gradients are so out.
Gradient, okay. Maybe your gradients are so out then. So the style that she's talking about, I think that reminds me of where Apple actually started their desktop screensavers and so on and so forth. Desktop um, background, like desktop images, and as well as the screensavers. So they came up with this whole gradient movement and then gradient backdrops and stuff. And if you really look at Apple, even Steve Jobs, how he used to present on keynote speeches or product releases, even anyone else in the design space, there is a bit of a gradient kind of trend came from Apple, and that's my personal experience. And recently, there has been I would say this is last year. I mean, we were started to ideate on jx design side as well, remember? And we were ideating, we were researching on what's out there, what's happening, what the trends are. Gradients were starting, I think you're right, it was picking up again. It died, yes, it was so out when you come up with something gradient. I said no, it's not. But it all depends on the trending colors of the gradient as well. So you can see most of the gradients you see these days as a trend, what is trending, it's not gradient of two tones. They're gradients of multiple colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably what is changing when it comes to gradient. I mean, we end up like our mobile jx.design website, mobile drop down, menu drop down, background is a gradient.
Yeah, I had to try so hard not to say anything about it because you told me multiple times to never use a gradient.
But anyways, we used it. So I think it's the way we do it. It's the way you use it as well. Gradients works for certain things, but gradient doesn't work for a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
So you have to be very smart on where you use the gradient, how you use the gradient. Gradients are very tricky. Yes, it is a trend, but I don't think it's a huge trend, but it is a trend. There are a lot bigger trends are happening in that space. Like what we talked about before. And we were, clean design, moving images.
Oh, I thought you were
AI.
gonna do something more along the lines of like visuals, like gradients, like color usage.
Oh, color usage. If I say there's a lot more happening in the colors, I mean, um, it's so surprising that as much as that creative agencies or when it comes to more creative side of things, they use a lot of multiple bright colors. A lot of bright colors are coming up, single tone, single color, and there are primary colors also. There's no like blue, yellow, red, green, like they're like main primary colors that who plays are they and being solid, 100% solid primary colors, not even a shade or a variation of it. It's more like that has been a huge thing recently for creative agencies. When it comes to tech, I would say automation, software, like product development, that kind of agencies or even tech companies, they have been in primary colors, but more secure and how do I say that? The best way to put it is colors that gives confidence to the audience, like black, blue, and that show that it's like you can trust them. It's like colors that represent trust. So they've been using that a lot. But again, they do the variation of blacks or variation of blues, and it just builds trust. I think it's just how people see colors. There's a lot more happening in that space as well. But that's why I said lot more happening in color space, and gradients is a trend, but we have to be very careful how and where you use it when it comes to gradient.
Mm-hmm. So do you think it's gonna fall out pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm. Okay. Okay. High contrast slash monotone. This one I feel a little bit iffy about because I don't think I see it all that often. Like, unless you're specifically going for like a nighttime mode of a website or like an app, I don't really see it that often. What do you think?
I think this will become a bigger trend soon because of the metaverse. I would say it's just that anything to do with metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Wait, what do you mean by that?
if you, the trend has been anything that more futuristic or anything more outer space, anything that space travel, like you go to SpaceX website, or I mean, forget about SpaceX website, like anything futuristic. We were talking about blockchain. We were talking about this whole cryptocurrencies, right? And then you're talking about metaverse. We're talking about NFTs. Anything that futuristic, monochrome has been the thing, right? Because it just, you can play with it as much as you want, because space, we outer space, we see like it's a dark, and you say lights as stars, and I think that has, that probably what is trying to represent. So monochromes really going to take take space in the web, as in like digital representation for industries, especially on the metaverse space, because it's very difficult for you to create a atmosphere on a white background. Bless you. So it's very difficult to create an atmosphere in a white background, but it is so much easier to create an atmosphere in a darker background, because you can create little lights and little spaces. Because if you don't have the sun, for example, it's going to be dark, and if you wanted to highlight something, it's a matter of putting a light on there. So it's very different to what we see day to day. I think monochrome is going to pick up. I think it's going to be a big trend coming to the next 6 months. I would say in the next, it's not. It's going to take. It's going to be. It's going to be a bigger trend from next 6 months to the next 3 to 4 years. I think, because designers will find it much easier to play around with the monochrome, especially in the black backgrounds. How to create a metaverse, how to create a atmosphere within that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy thinking back to like, say, like when I was in school, I was always told never to use like a black background for a website, like within web design, because it looked old and looked 90s, and like I didn't have experience with websites in the 90s, so I never really understood why that was like an off limits thing. So seeing it like something oppose that so directly, because I've always like, I like dark tones and colors. So this is more like seeing it done successfully in a way where I was like told that it was off limits. It's like kind of clashes in my brain.
See, that's why I say I think I'll start again on that. I always see creativity or design as a subjective matter. Even if I teach someone, right, I will tell these are the trends or these are the basics or fundamentals of using color on a digital platform, on a physical platform. like if you're drawing it on using chalk and paper or pencil and paper, pen and paper, to something we do it on Illustrator, Photoshop, or InDesign, Figma, all the tools, Miro. So there are certain ways that you can use the colors, but it doesn't mean that you should be restricted to any color if you think that this is going to work well. Black background's always been there. It's just that people find it rather boring. They feel they represent black represented certain things in certain decades. In 90s, maybe it has from not just from 90s, like even since since I don't know, since creativity or from design and art, general, like since human history goes back in time, black represents certain things, right? Then black conversion towards certain industries and certain trends changed over the time. So when you like when I've been told that black, don't use black because of this, yeah, don't use black because of that, don't use white because of that, don't use red, and don't use these certain colors. But it doesn't mean that you can't make it work. You can make any color work. It's a way you're representing the foreground elements with that color that you choose as a background. I mean, today if you go into some of the good website or some of the good digital represent, even like um, some of the applications that we see on mobile, they have a really good darker background, like a monochrome and high contrast background. It works because they have used the forefront elements like the font, the boxes, the shapes, everything else, the moving images, everything. It's just they use it quite nicely. But this is, I mean, that was going a bit off topic. So what I'm trying to say is that this trend is going to pick up, and this is going to stay for a while. I think it's going to stay for a long time. If metaverse as we know it today is going to be the next big thing for everything that we do, then monochrome will be the way to go. So it'll pick up, definitely pick up. It's a space. I mean, this is something that unknown. Metaverse is something that we don't know how it's going to be. It is a virtual reality that we were going to do a lot of things. So,
Have you ever watched Black Mirror?
no, I have not.
Okay, never mind. Comment taken back. But you really should. I think it's it's really good.
Okay.
Okay, so this is also goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, the dark, futuristic, cosmic UI, where it's black background with those pops of color. So, yeah, a lot of the same points. It is very like what you're saying, like a lot of like spacey elements.
It's because of what we been, rather than what we've been told. I mean, what we've seen every time you watch a space movie, to a space documentary, to anything to do with space imagery, like any history channel or discovery channel, anything to do with documentaries about space, you start with the black background. You generally start with the black background, and they will show the universe or the billions of stars. They're just going through it because it's endless. When it's dark, it's endless. When like because you don't know what's next or what's when you're in the dark, you're always like, I can't see the next. Where am I going? I don't know. Our psychology works that way. But when you see something, you see, okay, as far as you can see, you know what's going to happen, what could happen, because you already processed that in your mind. But when it's too dark, you only see so much. So creating a atmosphere within that space is easy because you don't know what's next. So people are always curious, okay, what's next? What's next? What's going to happen next? It's already given you the feeling of there's something more than what I see because it's black in the end. But if you have if I look at outside right now, I'm like, oh, there's plenty of light. I know there's a car, tree, building, and if beyond the building, I just don't process because I don't see it unless I imagine something. But if you're doing something in the night, I wouldn't see the next building because it's pitch dark. There's no light. So that area of atmosphere becomes more condensed than when you have light. So it's rebuilding curiosity, building scenarios. It's just that yeah, it's like more of a storytelling thing as well. So it'll pick up, and definitely monochromes, and then dark futuristic, cosmic UI is gonna, yeah, it's gonna take it on. I don't know whether that will actually go towards simple websites where about you're selling a service or you're selling a product kind of thing. I don't think that Shopify or like Wix and all these other platforms that gives e-commerce or non-e-commerce doesn't matter, the website platforms, people will use it because softer tones really gives them comfort when they are purchasing something for certain types of products. So I don't think that that's going to go that way, but definitely in the metaverse space, or yeah, and cryptos and so on and so forth, that'll definitely pick up on this, and it's going to stay for a while.
Yeah, but like in a way, how does that run into like accessibility issues?
Accessibility has been a big thing. It was always been a big thing, but it wasn't a trend. But now it's trending. So they will run into challenges with accessibility. But see, accessibility have multiple layers. It has text or font, color, semantics around the page of how everything laid out, the shapes, and then that's what you see. But there is a compliance, like double A, we call it double A compliance. You have 1A, 2As, and 3As, depending on the priority and hierarchy of compliance when it comes to accessibility. So standard is double A. That's average, that what you're required to do. So when you comply with accessibility, you need to comply with what you see. Also, keyboard shortcuts or keyboard, um, what keyboard does to certain actions. Also, there is a screen reader as well. So when you hover onto a button, there should be a screen read option that they can switch it on and it tells what it is. So vision impaired to hearing impaired to any other disability that people have, accessibility will have to follow. Dark backgrounds definitely will make a huge challenge for accessibility, but it doesn't mean that it's a no-go zone. You can still comply, but it'll be harder for front-end developers to code it towards that, to comply with it. So it's not impossible, but it's going to be really, it'll be a challenge.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like you brought up like screen readers and everything like that. But what about the in between where it's like you're not fully blind, you're just like your vision's just deteriorating a little bit as people's visions naturally do. And like those websites might be like a little bit difficult to look at, but you're not at that point where you need like a little screen reader. You still like have your vision.
So that, I mean, there will be a debate, right, for that. So I can simply be sent to be rude about it and say, why don't you go and get a new pair of glasses? or
We're in the United States of America where that kind of thing is very inaccessible and very expensive.
right. And so that, I mean, of course you can, like I said, you can do that. But but my point is this. For people like that, I mean, for of course we all get, I mean, when you get older, your vision deteriorates, and what we do is we don't expect a website or a digital web presentation or application to support my needs. I will always go and find, I will see how can I improve my vision generally, not just from a digital screen perspective. But that's off topic. But right, but from that kind of a gray area, so there is, like, you can actually, part of accessibility shows that you can increase the font sizes, you can increase the page content sizes, and that will be the part that actually plays in it. There is always a solution for that. Yeah.
Okay, next topic. This definitely goes hand in hand with like what we've been talking about, real life materials, imitation within websites. So it's going more into the futuristic with the chromes, the gradients, the like just like different types of materials. I'm seeing bubbles, I'm seeing like glass effects. So this, I'm like, you only really see it if you're looking for it.
I don't agree with this one. I think this is when we talked about gradients, we talked about moving images. We talked about monochromes, dark tones, and then we talked about clean design and real life real life material kind of imitations. It's not going to go with the rest of the trends.
But it does go with like the gradients and the more like monochrome, like because it has that contrast to it. But I just don't see it, like, and I don't really see it popping up in the future.
No, because it's the reason I don't agree with this, because you won't be able to have a clean design with it. You will feel it's a clean design. I mean, of course, one of these. If I take this bottom right hand corner one, um, it has a lighter gray background, a glass effect, and an X-ray kind of a imagery in there, and then you have simple black font. So you have two tones, gray, like a aqua dark blue gradient, and then you have a black font. So if black font pops out, it looks clean, but there's so much going on. So I don't think that as a clean design. So this will contradict what we talked about before for me personally. See, and also gradients. This is not gradients, even though it feels like it, but it's not a gradient. It's a of a uh, shape of something that they have done a two-tone, and one is more opaque rather than it's a gradient. So there is a way that you probably have to work so hard at when it comes to design to get something up and running quickly with clean design and best user experience, and also how the primary color has been used and how the monochromes used. So this is, I don't agree that this has been a trend or it's gonna be a trend. That's my personal opinion about it. And I haven't seen them for these 6 months. In my past 6 months, I haven't seen any of this. Especially this topic, which is real life material and limitations.
Yeah, so like kind of what I was saying, where it's like you don't really see it unless you're like looking for it, because it's more in those like very niche websites where it's like it's more about like design and it's more about like trendiness. So yeah,
Probably, yeah.
Okay, next trend: gigantic typography.
That's not a new trend. It's always been a trend. Whenever you have bold text, it creates like it's just what I mean. It's bold, and we call some people like being bold as well, like being out there and say how it is being bold and take a chance and do it. Bold text always been a thing. I ever since I remember, bold text always draw my attention, and especially if it's black and white or yellow and black. There are so many primary colors that can play with it. If there's a massive contrast between the background and the foreground, if the foreground is the actual text with bold text, it's always pops up. It's always pops up. So um, it's always been a trend. I don't think it's new, but you can see from uh, again digital representation, which is web application, websites from different forms like the e-commerce to different businesses to, like, let's take from website perspective. It's been big recently, or it's always been big generally, but I can see a trend happening in websites. So I can see a trend happening even in mobile space. But I don't think it's gigantic typography is a new thing. Yeah, just in the design space, like overall, it's always been there. But from a I would say rather product design, web design, and mobile design, maybe. But yeah, I don't think it's a major trend, because I've seen this before for a long time. But it's gonna stay forever. It's not gonna drop off, because it's all like it's capturing attention.
Yeah, but it's more of a trend in a way where it's like, say you're on a website and the typography is going to take up the entire page and you have to scroll to get to the main content. That I am seeing a lot more.
I think it's going back to the whole moving imagery at the
Yeah.
start as well. So most of the website or most of the sites that we're going to do whatever we want to do, landing pages has become this massive movement, massive text, and whoa, capture the attention. I want to know more, and you scroll down. So I think it's just a trend and a yeah. Let's keep it. It's been a trend. I agree with you. Of what you've seen, I've seen the same. I think we've done similar stuff recently as well. Uh, for expectation of clients as well as our own. I think that's gonna stay and for a while. I wouldn't say for a while, for a long time, because being bold and using bold text on any platform, any channel, any medium, it's always been a big deal. It just draws attention, and it will continue to do so. But I like it. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay, next one. Sentimental design.
What does it mean?
Okay, so it's more of going into like bringing back like specific time periods and how things were designed, but like modernizing it just a bit. So
It's like more of a storytelling.
exactly.
Yeah. Sentimental design, yes. I think it's related to storytelling. I think we were talking about last time also. We were talking about one of our clients. They're starting a golf apparel company, like e-commerce company. So, and we were talking about his story, um, how you portray or represent a story of yourself, or tell a story with a static image or a moving image, right? But without making it like a drama, like actual story, like a movie. Within few seconds, I would say 5 to 10 seconds of snippets, can you tell with moving images or a static image a story about what you're selling and who you are? And it's always take audience's attention, because we love stories. Our life itself is a story. So it's relatable, always relatable. When a human trying to say something or tell something, and if it's when it comes more interactive and interesting, you always give attention. And sometimes it's boring, you know. And you tell sometimes that person is boring as well. So it's just that if there's interaction and it is interesting, you always capture attention. I think that is key for everything. Probably we've seen this in the rather last 6 months. I think we've been seeing this for last year and a half or 2 years. Now people have, even the designers, even like the business owners or entrepreneurs have seen that telling a story actually captures more attention than trying to sell a product. So I think it's gonna come bigger and bolder and better in the next, not just 6 months. I think it's gonna stay for a while too.
Okay, that was it. So what do you expect to see more of? Maybe something that we haven't talked about, or just like from this 6 month point, what do you expect for the rest of the year?
I think I think design space and designers are quite curious what's gonna happen in AI space, and what's design industry, how design industry is gonna affect. I mean, like I said, I spoke to James um, yesterday, and he was talking about how Miro is using AI technology to do a lot of things, like multiplying post-its to content to a lot of other things. So how that is going to make designers' life easier or design space easier, and also design systems, how AI is going to drive that. Also, like things like Webflow and how they are going to take um, how are they gonna take design industry or even this space, like I'm talking about website for example, to the next level or next space. It's going to be really interesting to see. I'm really curious how that's going to play out, and for the next 6 months, that's one area that I'm looking forward to. And what's going to happen, I'm not sure, because nobody knows what AI is going to do, because it's AI, it's a machine. And I mean, I know we are not the one who's controlling it. Algorithms going to control it, and who owns algorithms? So much, it's broader conversation. I mean, we talked about it last time anyway. So that's going to be an interesting space to see. Uh, I think definitely TikTok and Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and every other social media platform just doing like moving images or motion images, videos. That's going to pick up a huge trend or huge design impact towards whatever we do in the next 6 months. Because in the next 6 months, a lot of technological advancements going to change and shape the digital space and what we see on screens. So that's going to be a area to look out for how the design industry or a design space, as from product designers, which is UX UI, to service designers, to strategic design, anyone who's doing creating a visual impact towards a channel. It's going to be really interesting to see how much human intervention of design is going to happen, how much tech is going to bring AI towards that, how that how it's going to evolve. It's a really interesting space to see. Clean design. I mean, I know we talked about it. Um, Clean design versus color and shapes. That is going to be something that I'm really looking forward to see. I've started seeing these different shades of colors on automotive industry, like cars and like the vehicles that I see have very different color tones coming out. I'm not sure how this is.
Like what?
Like I've seen the BMWs have these really odd grays and blue like gray and blue mixed colors are coming out. And earlier this year for the tech, I think it's the 2023 um, digital conference in Vegas. So I think it was BMW itself or Mercedes. They brought like they had a car that they brought it in. The color changes the way you want of the car. Different days, different moods, different time, you can change the color of the car. So colors is going to really shape the way we see and way we do things in this space for the coming 6 months, even for the next decade, for example. So it'll be a very interesting space to see. In That's the thing, not just in digital space, in every other industry like automotive or industrial product, as in like physical products that we use, clothing industries, apparel, color is going to play a huge part for it. That's something that I'm looking for to see what's changing. Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Okay. This is JX Drive. You can find us at jx.design. Thank you. We're on all socials. You can find us anywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn,
YouTube,
that too. Okay. We release
and TikTok.
And TikTok. We release every other Monday. So check back next time.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, you really need to charge your iPad.
Okay, that's okay, but we survived with it.